Well, it's been a day. A day it has been. You guys know I am currently reading The Emotional Lives of Black Women by Inger. Don't remember the last name. PhD. Okay, The Emotional Lives of Black Women. Great book. Very heavy stuff. Um, very heavy stuff. What did I wanted to come on today and I wanted to talk about? I guess I wanted to talk a little bit about morality. In the sense of like one's morals, right? Like what we gauge as moral and so forth. Um, I know I made a video yesterday or maybe the day before talking about the lack of effort that I think people put into making friends and relationships in general and how social media really bypasses that. Um, and there was a content creator who was on Instagram talking about this, just how, so many of the creative fields and industries or whatever aspects of society, hobbies, so to speak, have become so performative. And I would agree. I might post this short, but you guys know I have been posing the question to you guys about the work of Toni Morrison, especially in the literary space, right? I've shared on numerous occasions how I have read works by African American authors that have been a lot more impactful, that have changed the way I see the world, that have changed the way I relate to myself and to how I relate to Black people. And I've always posed this question to you guys of what is it about the awe of Toni Morrison? I think in part, right? And I'm saying this criticism very lightly because I've not indulged in the work. But I think so much of the awe is because Toni Morrison was one of the first, at least, to do what it was that she had did. I think we start talking about all of the things that were taking place within history. Her writing, her publishing, all of it was an act of resistance. All of it embodied a beautiful work of art. All of it was incredibly expressive. But I've said this on numerous occasions. I have not met anyone who has been able to tell me how Toni Morrison's work has changed their lives, has, impacted culture in that way outside of just merely being the first to do what it was that she had done. I've also critiqued the literature in the sense that, was it a good book? Was it difficult? Like, what exactly are we gauging as it being a good book? Are we gauging the difficulty of the literature being good? Like, what exactly are we saying when we say this was a great book? And so I've always questioned that, but I think that Toni Morrison's work is always at the forefront when you start talking about Black book clubs, right? We start talking about African American book clubs, you're always going to hear Toni Morrison. But yet, to this day, I've not heard anybody say why that is. And so for me, it's like, hey, is the work good if no one can get through the work? What exactly was the author trying to convey? Was this author simply trying to prove her intelligence? Was she trying to prove herself at the time where Black women, Black people were segregated, were fighting through certain things? There were all type of, things that were going on in our community, right? For African American people, like what was the impetus for this, right? Was it merely expression? Was it fun? Was it like, you know what I mean? It's poetic. It's all these different things, but like no one's really been able to tell me why they love the work so much. And so I hear that name come up a lot. I think even in the people who defend Toni Morrison's work, I still think they are a part of the same performative, type of jargon, the same performative type of, dance that everybody's doing in all these creative communities, right? And I'm just not interested. I'm not interested. I don't think that you got to be deep to like a popular author. I don't think you have to be deep to like somebody. You know what I mean? That there are so many books, and this is just one of my, like, and it goes up, but this is just one of my, but there are so many different books written by African American people that people have never heard of. And so I don't know, and I think to an extent, I don't think there's anything wrong with exercising your mind. I don't think there's anything wrong with like having fun with literature and learning and playing and taking some time to dissect certain things. But I don't know. I guess everybody reads for different purposes. You know what I mean? So if I was to say maybe it's not performative, I would say that I think everybody reads for different purposes. But I think when you're talking about African American people and the need for enlightenment, where you're talking about addressing the literacy crisis, I wouldn't really come to the forefront of a book club or a page that's, geared specifically or marketed specifically to African American people with the work of Toni Morrison. I wouldn't say, hey, Morrison is the entry point to African American literature. I'm not going to say that. I think that Morrison is a peculiar type of interest, right? Morrison is a preference, right, in terms of taste. I don't think it's a prerequisite. And so I think that's more so what I would say about Morrison. I'm still, taking the time to kind of like dissect this, right? Because I'm just more so curious, not because I'm reaching any type of definitive whatever about Morrison. Like I said, I have numerous books by her. I've not read any of the books. I'm also not someone who's really big on fiction. Although I do want to read Yesteryear. I've heard good things about that one, right? The Trad Wife Who Goes Back in Time. And I think that's very relevant for today. So shout out to whoever the author is of Yesteryear. I love that because I think that there's really something about artistry and reflecting the times, right? Right now we have Gen Z, who's very nostalgic, right, for times and periods in history that they've never actually experienced, right? They're very nostalgic for a time without cell phones, and they've never been without cell phones. They've never been without, this way of living. And so, I think Yesteryear, to my understanding, at least what I knew the book to be about or know the book to be about, is about taking a person back in time. And so I think that's going to be really cool. I love time traveling books too, especially when it's told from like a party perspective or whatever. So I think that's going to be a great book. And fiction book for me is very easy to digest. I think it's one of the things I love about fiction, and I think most people will love about fiction, is you're able to kind of lose yourself in the characters, and it's so intriguing. You know what I mean? And it's all so consuming. Like I've read, let me see. Where is it? I think it's actually on this shelf. But there was a book that I read. It might have been by Mary Wiggins or Mary Monroe. I think it might have been, is it Miss Wiggins? I don't know if that was the book. Anyway, there was a Black woman who owned a bookstore. It's now closed, but in my city, and she recommended some fiction books to me. This is at the time where I was learning a lot about African American history, and she was like, well, if you want to take your mind off of things, you know what I mean? She gave me some fiction books to read, and I'll never forget putting down that fiction book like within 3 days. It was so good. Like I said, y'all, I don't really typically read fiction books, but when I do, girl, when I say I put them books down quickly, especially when it's really good. And to me, I feel like that's what makes great fiction, right? And it's like you're so lost in this. And I think for a lot of people, fiction books serve as kind of like a way of escape from reality, right? In a very pleasurable and like, sensible way. You know what I mean? Like it's not alcohol, but it's very, it could be so consuming. You know what I mean? So I think that's one of the things that most people love about fiction. And so, yeah, back to what I've said about Morrison, it's like, if you can't get lost in the book, if I have to take the time, to kind of dissect this, is this good writing? Right. And again, I'm not here to make any definite, nothing is definitive. I'm just asking a question. I'm asking a question. I'm engaging curiously about people who are fans of Morrison. That's all I'm saying. And that's what I've been doing this whole time. Right. If I'm reading a fiction book, I don't want to have to sit here and decode every sentence. That's not, what is the purpose of this? Right. Especially when it's fiction, especially when it's fabrication, right? Now, I like to read for educational purposes. And typically, when I'm reading a book for educational purposes, yes, sometimes I have to take the time to decode, but I have to disagree. I think a lot of times, and I'm not talking about ease, right? I'm talking about understanding. I'm talking about whether or not a writer knows their stuff and they're able to convey it in a way that when you read this, you understand what they're trying to say. I've got books that I've read and I'm like, this is trash. I don't care if it's a New York Times bestseller. I don't care if it's been published by Penguin Publishing House. I don't care. I don't care if it's a brand name. Like, if the book is trash, the book is trash. The book is trash. Like, if you're writing a book and I don't understand what you're trying to say, this is not a matter of, oh, I don't understand the difficulty. No, this is a matter of the thoughts are scattered. You can't get to the point. There's too much fluff. This book is trash. Not everybody is a great writer. Not everybody is a great teacher, right? That's the thing about reading and writing, is like it takes the skill to be able to convey what it is that you're trying to say and articulate it in a way that is very clear and straight to the point. And that doesn't mean that it's without difficulty, right? When I say without difficulty, I mean, I guess I'm more so referring to a certain type of verbiage that we don't hear every day, right? Certain terminology that's kind of mixed up in there. And it's like, oh, okay, what does this word mean, right? Like, but I think to be able to be like, I don't know what you're saying, that's not good literature to me, personally, right? And like I said, I like reading for educational purposes. I'm not backing down from a challenge, you know what I mean? But at the same time, if you have to do all that, I don't know. I don't know. You guys know the best writers are some of the best readers, right? So anybody, if you want to start, your thing up, you want to be a writer, You got to read. I think the best writers are avid readers. So, no, it doesn't really take all that to be able to explain what it is that you're trying to say. I don't know who it was. Was it Einstein, one of those white men who said, "Hey, you know what I mean? If you can't explain it to a 5-year-old, you don't understand it enough." You know what I mean? Now, that's not everybody. I think sometimes the social environment that people grow up in, like all of that plays a huge role in how people articulate themselves, right? I've been hearing a lot and just kind of looking at, I want to say his name, I hope I'm saying it right, Ta-Nehisi Coates. I'm like, this man is very intelligent, like highly, highly intelligent. And I also think that he speaks with the level of like, I think that many academics and black scholars in certain spaces, right? I think they all speak with a level, like with a code. You know what I mean? Like they're not gonna say the thing. They're gonna say the thing, but they're gonna make sure nobody. They're not really saying the thing. They're gonna make sure they say the thing in a way that it's not going to be common to the masses, right? And it's not going to be so overt, especially when they're talking about injustice, especially when they're talking about race, especially when they're talking about some of the social issues, you know what I mean? Political issues, right? So, but I still wouldn't say that he probably is a bad writer. I have 2 books from him, as you can see. This is the first 8 years, and then I have Between the World and Me. Now, I didn't read either of those, but I gave Between the World and We to my brother, Between the World and Me to my brother, and he's no scholar, right? Like, but he really liked it. And so I do have some work by him, but I've just been seeing him a lot lately, and I'm like, oh, the way his mind and how he, speaks and stuff, I'm like, he's interesting. But yeah, if I'm reading fiction, I'm trying to relax. You know what I mean? I have a book over here called in 5 years, and this one is by Rebecca. I actually can't see what that last name is. Mm. It starts with an S. But it's a good book though. Great read. And I think she gets her point across, and it's fun. I wouldn't say that this is a book you probably give to a fifth grader. So I think we start talking about intelligence. You start talking about all these things. It's so on a spectrum. You know what I mean? And I think that's what a lot of people in the writer community and reader community, especially on Instagram, it's like it's really not the same for, you know what I mean? It's so fluid. It's so fluid, and in part it's so individualistic. You know what I mean? That I don't really think you can like gauge it. And I think that's also kind of why these reading and writing communities fail. Especially to really foster a sense of community because it's so diverse. Right? It's like you have this classroom, right? That like everybody's in. Like it doesn't matter if you're a fifth grader, 12th grader, post grad, like it doesn't matter, undergrad, like it doesn't matter. You know what I mean? Like everybody's in the classroom. You know what I mean? So I think that's also why it's kind of counterproductive and it is more performative because a lot of these communities don't actually foster learning. They don't actually foster curiosity, right? But of course, if you go to places in person, you know what I mean? At least that's been in my experience, right? Like I'm invited to the writers community. I'm a part of the writers community in my neighborhood because I write and I've worked with the kids and I've done you know what I mean? So it's like it's so much more organic, right? Same thing with the book club. You know what I mean? So much more organic. So I think for me, because I experience these communities in real time, I'm like, they just totally fall short on Instagram and they fall short online because it's very performative. But yeah, so finishing up the emotional lives of Black women, very heavy, very much empathetic. You have a very big understanding, but I think if I had to wrap up and get on the other side of everything, it would probably just be that. And I actually just seen a video that said this, but it's true. And I was thinking about this today, because of my own life and stuff. I was like, at the end of the day, whatever happened or whatever happens to you, like, be a good person. You know what I mean? You don't have to really believe in God. You don't have to believe in like some type of spiritual principle. But I do believe that in doing the right thing and really trying to be a good person, right? Like I think things actually will work out for you. At least it's gonna be okay for you. You know what I mean? But I think if you are someone who genuinely does not do the right thing and everything that you do, you're just illegitimate. You know what I mean? You're constantly looking to get over on people, push like it's not going to be all right with you. I just genuinely believe that. And I don't know what it is, for the African ancestors say, hey, listen, what you do to me is already done to you. You hear the saying, what goes around comes around, right? Back in the day, my grandmother used to say, every dog has their day. You know what I mean? But it's like, it makes a difference. And so I say all that to say, because obviously, with this book, like, yes, there's some sensitivity, but I'm afraid that as an adult, you actually can't afford to be a victim, right? Like, are things going to happen to you? Have things happen to you? Absolutely. But the danger in adopting a victim mentality is that as a grown person, you actually go around victimizing others, right? If you're always the victim in a situation, like, you're going to be victimizing other people because you don't think that you're the problem. You know what I mean? And it's not a good mentality for growth. It's not a good personality trait type of, mindset to have. It's very unpleasant. It makes it very hard for people to be around you. And good things just never really seem to flow your way. You know what I mean? So just try to be a decent person. Bad things are going to happen to everybody. Like, life is just inevitable. But I do think, to an extent, just trying to do the right thing, I think it makes a difference. And so I guess that's really what I was saying. Because, you hear a lot of people today, like there's this one creator who's online, like this whole rabbit hole about this guy she's been dating for all these years who's been cheating on her. And I'm like, why are you bringing this to the fore? And it's like, it's just so messy and it's so insane. And I'm not, if that's her outlet, that's fine. Do what you want. But I just see this so often, especially in communities where there's like a lot of women. And it's like, what's up with this? You know what I mean? These are strangers. These are people that you don't know. Whatever sense of support that you think you have, I mean, is it real? Is it really tangible? Right? Like, being validated on the internet by a bunch of people that I'd be thinking most people on the internet these days are bots. I don't know what it is, but I just feel like everybody just be having the most perfect response. You go to people's profiles, they have like no photos, the profile is locked. It's like, is this even a real person? Like, I don't know. That's just the way I engage with the internet. And maybe I do that to maintain my sense of reality because I can't really take the internet serious to an extent, and I think it's because I just didn't grow up so enmeshed with the internet. Like, the computer was in the living room, my bedroom's back here. You know what I mean? Like, there's a time when we're gonna log off, and it's just not that serious. Like, I don't know. So, but when I see that, I'm just like, I don't get it. I'm not saying she can't explain. Do what you want to do, right? I'm not judging your act and what you're doing. I'm just more so curious, as to what will make a person share something so intimate about their lives and garner community from like outing another person. Like, I feel like sometimes people who kind of do the most are usually the ones who are the problem. I don't know. It's just so, and I think it's also interesting too when you have people, not speaking specifically to this creator, but like when you have people who come online and it's like they be showing up one way and then it's like when you see the whole situation, you be like, oh wow. You know what I mean? Like, whoa. But even in that, like I said, morals, it's all fluid today. Like, there really is no one standard, right? And I think that's the thing too that I was listening to. I was hearing, it was on Bobo's Voice. It's a podcast, but Donovan was talking about how, like, let me lose my train. How I'm losing my train of thought. Basically, I think he was talking about how, you know, uh, what did he say? I lost my train of thought. Okay, anyway, it's gonna come back to me. But yeah, I just think it's crazy how at the end of the day, like, it's just, I don't know. I'm not taking away from anybody's, that stuff is real, but I don't know. It just makes me wonder, like, what is it about people who experience these type of relationships and they want to come online and garner like support? Like, I don't get that. Like, and I'm more so speaking about it from a growth perspective. Like, you know, there are some situations where people are victimized. That's true and that's very real. But there does come a point in your life when this goes for everybody, not women, not men. I'm not speaking on any one specific situation. I'm talking about just in life in general. Like, out of, especially over a certain age. I ain't talking about children. I'm not talking about adolescents. I'm talking about grown folks. Like, it does get to a point in your life where you're like, okay, you got to be like, okay, I played a role in this. Even if you was young, even if you ain't know no better, like, even if you did the best you could. And that's gets to a point where it's like, we got to forgive ourselves and make better choices. And that's just kind of what it boils down to. And I think that's the part I don't really like about internet and like the relational drama, gender war, because it's like everybody plays a role. You know what I mean? If you know your mother is enabling and you know you haven't grown up and you know you's a hot mess, you keep getting the same outcomes. It gets to a point where it's like, okay, maybe it's not the women that you're dating, right? Like, if you have low self-esteem and you think that nobody on earth would like you unless you had some money, maybe it's not the women. You know what I mean? Like, if you're constantly getting cheated on, I've never been cheated on. If I had to just interject, I've never been cheated on. I've never experienced that. I'm also not going to be insensitive to that, but I've not been cheated on. But it's just like, you can see the signs with people. You know what I mean? You really can. And so to me, it's like if we're not wise enough to, kind of know people, again, anybody can be victimized now, honey. Listen, it's not what I'm saying. I'm just more so saying it's just like, I don't know. It's not this like, you engage with somebody of the opposite sex and doom and gloom is bound to follow. Like, and that goes for anybody. That's why I don't really get the gender wars. It's not practical. It's not sensible. And it makes me feel like, it's a danger because you have a lot of people who are watching this stuff and they've never had a boyfriend, never had a girlfriend, right? You have some people who it's like, this is their first and only relationship and they're 37, 45, older than me, and it's just like they're coming online with all this talk. And it's like, you don't even have any experience in the game. How are you? You know what I mean? And I feel that way about a lot of people online. It's like, how can you come online and say all this stuff and you ain't never had a boyfriend, ain't never had a girlfriend, ain't, and it's like, oh, a lot can happen in 6 months. 6 months is just getting to know somebody. You ain't even it. Y'all was never dating. It never gave y'all was a couple. It was giving. We were dating. We were getting to know one another. It didn't work out. All this drama that people be crafting online when they be telling the real story, it's like this is just nothing more than just content for the algorithm. Content for the algorithm. Like, oh, I got cheated on. Like, were y'all ever a thing? Was it ever a relationship? I don't think it was. You know what I mean? And it's like people don't want to tell the truth. Like, get to the real. Get to the real. Get to the real. That's all I'm saying. So I don't know. That type of stuff kind of zones me out a little bit. It's a little performative. I think it's distasteful more than anything. But again, that's based on my standards. Who am I? I'm just a girl in a little corner, in her little corner on the side of the internet. You don't have to listen to anything I'm saying. But I do think it's just like it gets to a point, and it's like this behavior is so distasteful. you know? I don't know. So, what else has been going on? What else is new? What's new with you guys? They're cutting grass outside. But yeah, what else is new? I told you guys I tried to start Instagram and I was like, this is just too much. It was way too many platforms to try to manage, posting content over there. I was over it. You thinking about starting a podcast? You should. Start a podcast if you have something to say. If you have, experiences, a subset of knowledge or whatever, you know what I mean, and it's unique and you've like can really help people and push culture and society forward, do that. Thinking about reading 10 books a month. Okay, are you trolling or what? I mean, if you are, do that. Do that. What books you reading? You're gonna be putting down what, two books a week? Art and art history. Okay, period. If that's your interest, do it. Do it. Anyway, I'm about to get off here. But yeah, I think I was just coming on here to say what I said about Morrison and just like how a lot of stuff is performative today, even intellectual communities. And I think that's what I'm going to make the title of this because I'm not really talking about anything. But yeah, I think I'm going to just talk about how, you know, even like academia or intellectualism, like even that has become performative. I think we might have to get back to the basis of like, where'd you go to school? Where'd you study? You know what I mean? Maybe we have to get back there because people be like, we be seeing the books, but I'm not hearing the thoughts. I'm not hearing anything original, like, and I'm not saying you have to do that. Like, I'm just more so saying, like, when you start talking about influence in platforms, what exactly are people following? Like, I would think if you're showing up, you got your bookshelf, you're doing your thing, like, people, we want to hear what you got to say. We want to hear what you're talking about. We want to hear we want to hear something that's going to move the people forward. We want to hear something that's going to get the people engaged. If you're on here talking about what you talking about, you ain't saying nothing. You ain't really talking about nothing. That's all I'm saying. So, mm, I think for me, my corner of the internet will always be a space where we come, we talk, we think, and we're curious minds, right? I'm not here to say y'all don't never read. See, this is why y'all dumb. This is why you didn't pass the fifth grade. Like, I'm not really, that's not really my mojo. You know what I mean? That's not really my mojo. And I said this before too. I'm like, why does everybody want to be smart? I grew up, and it's like that was like bullying and isolation came with being somebody who cared about your grades. Like that came with being someone who, you know what I mean, was like considered a nerd. Like that's the day, and that's when I grew up. So to see it fast forward, and it's like everybody wants to be smart. It's just interesting to me. It's never been a thing. It's never been a thing. So why is it a thing now? That's all I'm saying. And I think there's because it's an open market, right? In the creator economy. It's another pivot. It's another marketing opportunity. At first I was like, well, maybe this is the time where, those of us who love learning can kind of come into these circles, but then you're meeting the people with the shelf cases and it's like, oh, you're just so you don't actually care about the literature. And I even think for myself, like it's kind of cringe now because, as someone who loves learning, just that's really what it is, just loves learning. It's like now even you too start to look like you're performative. That's why I'm like, oh Lord, let me get back to my side of the internet. Yeah, nerds absolutely was made fun of. You was fully bullied. Bullied. The boys didn't like you. The girls didn't like you. Nobody was stunting you. Nobody was checking for you. So that's all I'm saying. And then another thing too, with a lot of people today, back to what I was saying about this whole thing being performative, is like, what's up with all the intellectual hostility? Because I know for me, like, and I feel like for people who really love learning, like, there's always going to be a level of intellectual humility. I don't know everything. You know what I mean? It's like either people are just very much full press and they're performative, or they're like so combative when you say something about their author, like, okay, wait a minute. You know what I mean? Do you like the work? Are we reading here? Or are you just a fan? You know what I mean? I think that's what I'm saying about a lot of these creators. It's like people just be fans of the celebrity of the household name. Like I said, Roxane Gay, that work is trash. The work is trash. The work is trash. Roxane Gay, trash. And it's like you should be able to say that in your book club without people punching down on you. That's crazy to me. That's crazy to me. So I feel like with a lot of these intellectual communities, it's mostly just about like looking the part. You know what I mean? It's looking the part. It's protecting the most, popular authors that are black. You know what I mean? Like we're not really engaged. And I feel like it's always either you got those or you got those who are just like really engaged in this idea of like a dystopia, which I'm not taking away from that, right? Like I'm not even really critiquing that. I'm just more so saying that the conversation usually falls in one and two. But I also want to say this, intellectual humility, because I know that algorithmically that's exactly what the content is going to push. Like it's always going to push that. So it's, I can't say that matter of factly. And my thing with Toni Morrison is like, okay, if we all have to sit and dissect her interpretations and what she was trying to say and garner, like, then we're all going to have different interpretations anyway. Surely, if we have to all pull up the thesaurus to look up, and maybe not even just in terms of terminology, but to look up how the word is played and all these different like literary devices, then surely, we're all going to come to different conclusions about what this work is about. That's lame to me. But again, can't not too much of Morrison. I've not read Morrison. I can't, just more so saying, I think, like I said, I know Roxane Gay is trash. I don't like Roxane Gay's work. I read 78 pages of Bad Feminist and was so done, right? And I think just if you like reading and you enjoy reading and you've read some good books, then you can kind of know when a book is bad. You don't have to finish all 400 pages to know that it was bad. Ironically, though, I met with somebody from my book club who was like, "Yeah, this was trash." So if anybody's read Gay's work, sound off in the comments, because honey, I was like, oh no, I knew in that moment. I'm like, yeah, she absolutely was able to pick it to market and do what she did based on feminine. I actually have that book. It's orange. It's up there. I actually have that book. I've not read it, but I do have that one. I got that book when I got Subverted by Sue Browder. And I actually got that book because Sue Browder references it in her book Subverted. So I've not read that one. I've not read that one. Is it good? Is it a good book? I'm gonna have to check it out. I have so many books that like I look forward to reading over my lifetime. You know what I mean? And I tell you guys this all the time, like genuinely speaking, I will be here, you know, because I just love reading books. I love learning. I loved it before it was a trend, before it was popular. I like just learning new things. I like being able to help myself, help people around me, you know what I mean? From reading books and just knowing things, you know? So it's cool. I just hate that it's become performative today because it's just, it's rough. Not finished it. Okay, yeah, I have that book though. I'm gonna have to check it out. That's funny that you say that. I'm gonna have to check that one out. Thank you. And I appreciate everybody who has been supportive of my channel. Like, I really like that it's small and it's like a small little intimate space. I'm not really trying to, I just like learning. I like learning. I'll be having ideas, and I'm like, I have to get these thoughts out of my head. So always so grateful for everybody who supports my channel and supports the things that, I'm into and the things that I talk about. So that means a lot. But when I be having people come over here with the rah rah, I'm like, listen here. I'm gonna be here whether you guys hear or not, because I just love learning. I love talking about things. I love talking about culture. I love talking about the things that I'm seeing. I think it's really cool too to kind of like document what we're seeing, because we're living in a day and age where stuff has changed drastically and is changing rapidly, right? Like every 6 months, it's probably like every 4 months, maybe even less than that, right? There's a new trend, there's a new thing. Like, it's just crazy, our ideologies, our beliefs, being American, I'm in America, but like as American citizens, the traditionalism, like we're uprooting all these things. Oh, that's what I was saying about Beauvois Void with Donovan. He basically was just talking about how we're living in a day and age where people are uprooting traditionalism, like don't go to college, we're not buying a house, we're not having kids, right? We're not getting married, but people aren't replacing that with something meaningful. So people are basically just crashing out because humans need something to kind of hold on to. We need structure, we need, and so that's what I was saying. I forgot what I was saying, but that's what I was saying. That's what I was saying. Thank you. Yeah, I don't have a book club yet, but I think at one point I do want to start a book club. I'm not gonna lie. I thought about starting like a Christian book club for women, but I don't know. I don't know. I have some books that I would love to read, but it might look different, So I don't know. That was my first thought in terms of a book club. And that was like, I had this whole thing on Pinterest I was thinking about, but it might change. I might be more so open to men and women joining. I don't really, I'm not really like, hey, everybody's cool until they're not. You know what I mean? I'm not really on the drama. You know what I mean, you guys? I'm not really on the drama. But yeah, I'm probably going to sign off, but I thank you. I really enjoy creating my podcast too. It's fun. It's kind of low maintenance right now, but it's a vibe. It's a vibe. All right, guys. Well, I got to peace out. This was fun. If you catch the replay and you make it this far, drop a book in the comments. Peace.